So here we have it, the Sopwith PUP, and welcome to the video assembly guide. I've got mine here. I don't have a sticker on my box telling me what's in here because I've actually got a couple of kits in here that I'm going to build side by side, both different. So let's get the box open and have a look what we've got inside. So here we go. I've got the Sopwith PUP that was flown by Dunning when he heroically landed this aircraft on a moving ship. That's a special edition aircraft that we did for Secret Santa 2023. I will be using that as a practice before I actually record the actual build, and the actual build is going to be done on our new livery, Sopwith PUP, that was flown by Arthur Gould Lee in August of 1917. And you can read more about this magnificent chap in the on the website on the Microaces page for this particular product, and also there's plenty of information online about this chap who went on to be Air Vice Marshal, I believe, in 1945. But anyway, I'm going to be building this one on camera, and this is now available to purchase from our website as well. So magnificent stuff. Right, let's get on with the build. Actually, of course, before we get on with the build, we need to go through what we've got here. And so let's break down one of the kits at least. So we'll do that with our Chin Chow. And so the parts included in the kit, you've got your fuselage and wheels on the one sheet. That's a single-sided print. You have some plastics which include undercarriage, strut work, machine guns, and also the dummy rotary that we'll be building for this particular aircraft. We have our 2mm foam parts, which are unprinted, but they form the internal structure for the aircraft mainly. We have our sticker pack, which has a number of different items on, including stickers for our propeller as well, so we can make it look proper scale with a wooden look to it. So there's plenty to go on there. And we have our double-sided print wings and obviously tail feathers too. So that's double-sided print, and as you can see, we've got a nice sort of scale look to the livery as well. And we've followed the actual aircraft's livery to a T. So it will look quite magnificent in the air and also on the shelf. So there we go. We've also got our score guide. So we've got the fuselage and the score guide for the decks as well as the wheel too. So we've also got a bag of bits. If you're already a Microaces builder, you'll be very familiar with what we've got in here. But if not, then we've got two oversized control rods for the tail feathers. We will be obviously shortening those, but obviously we buy them as one, and then they're used on every one of our kits, and we bespoke them, or you will bespoke it to the aircraft itself. So we also have a secondary bag. Got a nice vac formed cowl there that we'll have to sort of cut out and free from the excess bits and pieces. And in here also you should have a length of carbon fibre strip. There we go. That's it should be half a meter there, 500 millimeters of the stuff. Now, definitely magnets in there. Within here, we've also got another strip of the same carbon fibre there, and that's actually specifically cut for the leading edge of the elevator, so you don't have to worry about cutting that from the 500mm strip. We've got a plastic tube there which we cut into pieces when we assemble the dummy rotary engine. We have a little pack here. In here you have your rigging material, and you also have a nice rigging tool as well, integrated into the spool of the rigging there, and a little bit of information there which I suggest you heed. And let's have a further look. We should have a bit of ballast strip. It's actually self-adhesive, but we do stick it down with some glue too. And you should have a plywood sheet as well, laser cut. A 2D allied pilot. We're going down to the smaller stuff now. 2 tyres, which are rubber O-rings. You should have 2 4mm, I should say, 4mm by 1mm neodymium magnets. I'm going to put those back in the bag so we don't lose them in a minute. We have this forms the axle. This is actually a rod rather than a strip of carbon fibre, so don't get it confused with our strip, and use that instead of the strip itself on the elevator. So that's the axle, and you've also got a little brass tube there. That forms the central part of the dummy rotary engine. So once again, I'll put all these little bits back in the bag so we don't lose them. So apart from that, you will also have received a motor and a prop adapter. The prop adapter is probably already in the prop itself, but it's just there for safekeeping. You can pop it in and out, but that's where it eventually lives, right there. And obviously you've got the motor. It should have a long prop shaft on it, and that's ready really to be installed into the motor mount once we've assembled it. So that concludes the summary for what's in the kit. You will also need a receiver, obviously, to communicate with your transmitter, and you choose that on the website if you haven't already received it in your kit. And obviously you want the receiver that is compatible with your transmitter. So go and have a look on our website if you haven't got your receiver already, to select the one that you need for the build. Let's get cracking on the Sopwith PUP. Our first port of call, our first task, is to create the airframe. Here's one I prepared earlier. And as you can see, it uses a number of different parts. It's relatively simple, and it's quite flexible and structurally very stable, but and it's very typical of the substructure of most of our aircraft. You've got the sort of the internal keel, and then you've got these bulkheads, and typically for the aircraft that we do that have the rotary engines, you've got a very round front to the aircraft, so it tends to have a bit of a superstructure at the front that's a little bit different to the box section at the back, and we have a little complication, a little more sophistication, I should say, in the tail skid itself, representative of the PUP, and in fact the PUP and the Sopwith triplane share a very similar fuselage. So let's put that to one side for now, and we shall I'll just go through what we need. We've got the plywood sheet, which we'll be taking, I think, just the one part off. We have the sticker sheet. We need a couple of parts off that, and of course the plastics. We've got a few bits and pieces off there as well, and of course the 2mm foam that's all laser cut out. So we'll be using that too. Right, to kick off with, we shall release P1. We shall release, I'll get it into view, P1 and P2, which are the strengthening parts for the keel. So these are the plastic parts that run down either side of the keel. And if you haven't built the Microaces kit before, then you'll notice that these parts are all laser cut, but there are little places, three or four on each part, maybe smaller parts, just one, where it's not cut all the way through. So you just run the knife through those parts, and out they come from the sheet. So I'm actually going to apply these whilst our parts are in situ on the foam itself. So we're going to apply our P1 and P2 to D1. So that's the keel part that runs through there, and it should have D1 inscribed on it with the laser. So it's just it's a simple match-up of shapes running along the bottom of that keel. I'll just dry fit it for you, and it shouldn't go all the way to the back. It should stop slightly short there, so that we can accommodate the tail skid once we get round to installing that. So so literally just add some glue to the shiny side of the plastic. Run all the way down. Don't need to be too heavy-handed. Once we squish this onto the part, then the glue will spread out underneath. So just get that all lined up so that it's sitting right at the edge, on the bottom edge of the keel, all along there. And that obviously we've got little indicators where parts should match up, such as this little cutout for the lower wing. And obviously it should come up flush with the end there. Let's see, that sits there, that's it. So, and then we can flip it over and do exactly the same on the other side of the part. Down. And pop it on. One thing you want to try and avoid is getting glue all over the place, because it does tend to pick up dirt and become unsightly. Not that that's an issue really for doing parts like this, but it's always nice to have a nice clean model going together. It doesn't need too much cleaning. So we'll let that dry off, And whilst that is drying, we can take our other parts from here. So we've got P3, which is this piece here. We'll just release that. And that's actually going to go on to a part here, D2. So it literally, once again, sits over it. It should match it almost entirely, apart from at this little curved top here, which we'll actually be cutting out using the plastic as a guide. So I'm just going to apply glue to the shiny side of the plastic part, P3. That down. So, make sure it all lines up. Excellent. You may notice that the slope at the bottom here doesn't match up quite with the bottom of the 2mm part, but don't worry about that. We can, however, release W1 from its sheet. Now, in releasing W1, we're also releasing another set of parts here, which are in the W6, although on my, well, maybe they're W7. Anyway, they're those parts there. Don't seem to have a label, but we want to save those because we'll need them later. So possibly pop them back into the parts bag that you have, or put them somewhere safe so you don't lose them. So our W1 sits onto the front face of our D8, like so. But before we put it on there, we need to cut out this scored central part here. So make sure you've got a nice sharp knife, a new blade if possible, and then use the score line that's there just to cut the central part of the structure out. Always a lot easier to do this if the knife is, or the blade is new. This material seems to be unforgiving if you have a blunt blade. So, have we got all the way through? Nearly. Just those corners need a little more attention. Shoulder there. There we go. Released. So now we can pop our W1 over, and this should sit. I'll show you. Let's just get rid of that part in there. So this should sit so that the curve in the slot there matches the top of the curve in the slot in the foam part, and equally the curve at the bottom of that slot there sits on the curve of the bottom of that slot there. Like so. So let's just pop some glue. I'm actually just going to add it to the foam part here. There we go. And then we'll pop this on. This part isn't needed to a little bit later on in the build, but it's useful to get it done now so that it bonds well before we go for it. Use it as part of the assembly. I'm just making those tiny little adjustments just to make sure that it's all sitting where it's supposed to. There we go. We'll leave it like that. Right, we can now start taking the parts that we've already prepared out of the sheet. So this is D1 that I'm removing. We put those little plastic strips on. And there she comes. And also D2. There we go. And I'm also going to remove D3. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I've got a little bit of a lump at the top there, you can see, so I'm just going to trim that off on the curve. So you can actually use a sanding stick if you want as well. Doesn't work as well on this this stuff as a sharp knife, but it'll do. And what I'm going to do is, as I said before, I'm going to use the curve of the plastic part there. Let's see if I can sort of blowing it out in the light, but it's a bit, you can just about see the plastic there. I'm going to use that as a guide just to cut this little fillet out here. Now getting rid of this allows a longer battery to be used in the final aircraft. Okay. And then to the plastic side here, I'm also going to apply S1, which has got a few little dials on to represent the dash of the aircraft. So try this. Here we go. I'm using a new sticker material here. The previous supplier can no longer supply us with the material that we've been using for the last 8 years or so. So we're just trying out something a little bit different. Not massively different. So it's all about lining this up. There we go. Onto that top part there. Seem to have done that. Excellent. And then to the other side, I'm going to apply my D3. So that should actually sit so that the lower curves here and here sit with the curves on the bottom of that particular part, like so. So let's apply a little glue. Just make sure we put the glue in the right place. Okay. So it starts down here, runs along there, and up the other side. So we'll set that like so. So those curves all line up. Okay. So just put that to one side now to dry off, and then whilst that's drying, we can start getting all the other parts we need to build the rest of the tail itself. So let's relieve D4, D5, well, these are easy, and D6. There we go. Now, before we attach any of these, what I want to do is bring the back edge of the keel to a point. Now, let me show you on the one that I've already done. You can see that it tapers to a it's not a sharp point, but it's a coming together of the material there. So and that allows this whole arrangement at the back here with the tail skid to come together nicely. So to do that, you can actually sand this, as I've said, but if you've got a sharp knife, it's probably worth giving it a go with the knife itself, just to shave off. And it doesn't have to be pretty, because this is all going to be hidden with the fuselage itself, but just gently carve away, so. And as I said, if you've got a sharp knife, it's nice and it's quite an easy task to do. There we go, pretty much there. Good, so I'm down to about less than a millimetre at the tip there now. Just even it up a bit. There we go. It's a lot easier to do it like this without the bulkheads on than it would be with them actually sort of getting in the way. So you might find it easier to do this whilst down on the deck, like so. Just means it's supported a little bit better. And then it's obviously a lot easier to do with without bulkheads on if you're popping it down onto the surface there. So let's start the process. It doesn't really matter what order you put these in. I'm just going to start at the back here because I'm waiting for this to dry off. So I'm going to attach my D6. Just going to dry fit it just to make sure we know where it's going. So it's going in the rearmost slot here, and what I'm trying to achieve is that it comes down flush at the bottom of the keel there. Just taking note where it's sitting, where it's coming into contact with things. And then when I come to put the glue on, I know what to do. So it's a little bit up here, you may have noticed. Then there's a big hole, saving weight. I'm being quite light with the glue at the back because obviously there's a weight thing going on, and the less weight we have at the back, the less we will have to pop in as ballast front, because these rotary engine aircraft are always very stub-nosed and always need a little bit of ballast at the front. Well, I say a little bit, quite a lot. So onto, this is D5. Just dry fit that. Also eyeballing from the end there as well, just to make sure you're not putting in too much of a twist anywhere. And seems fine. And on she goes. Straight, good. And then D4. Put that on as well. Just make sure you're as close as you can get to the bottom edge of your keel, and everything's looking nice and square too, so can't ask for more than that. Right, so something that I didn't do to D4, which I can do now, and I can do it whilst it's in situ, but it would have been easier if I hadn't put it onto the keel. But there's a little sticker that goes on the back there, which is at the back of the cockpit, which is exposed. So that's S2 that we need. Let's just pry that off. There we go. So this literally sits at the top of D4, just up there. There we go. Good. So, with our little arrangement here of our D3, D2, etc., the sticker face should be facing backwards, and then our little arrangement up here should push through. There we go. And that sits quite nicely on the front there. Its position is fairly self-explanatory. Obviously, want to make sure that the bottom of the staggered part of this arrangement is once again flush with the bottom of the keel. So we can now apply a little bit of glue. And then get that stuck in place. Don't forget the sticker rear facing. So whilst we are on the tail area, we might as well get our tail skid in place. So if we turn to our plastics sheet, on there you should have P4, which is this part here. And this is one of the fold over parts. Go. Excuse me, chair's squeaking and creaking, just getting comfortable. So this folds over like so. And obviously what we do is capture the keel with it. Now where it sits is that the top edge, this, should sit along the, or flush with the top edge of the keel at the back here. And where the plastic strengthener ends, it should accommodate the angle of the tail skid as it goes down, so like so. In fact, probably an easier gauge of where it should be is the white areas that haven't been printed here. Should that right angle there should match the right angle at the back of the aircraft itself. That's probably the best way to gauge it and its position. So sitting at the top here, you want the top of the assembly, and then that white strut that comes down there should be sitting against the back edge of the keel. So obviously we want to bring all of this together, so I'm just going to add some glue to the internals. Once again, try to do it as sparingly as possible. And then what I'm going to do is fold it over to transfer some glue and then pull it apart again. So there we go, like so. Transfer a spot of glue and open it up again. And then I should pop so if I bring that up a little closer, you can see where everything is supposed to be positioned. If only it wouldn't wash out so much in the light. And then I'll fold over, just making sure everything sits on top of one another, so we're not having any white edges showing, hopefully, or minimizing it anyway. And there we have our tail skid on. Excellent. Now I have got a little bit of glue spanning between the what represents a sort of a piston and the wire that runs down there. So I'm just going to clear that because we need that to be clear. I'm just using the back edge of the knife rather than the front edge, which would obviously dull the blade somewhat. Just making sure we've got clear run through there, because we've got a sticker that actually threads through there, and when it comes to attaching the rudder. There we go. Just make sure everything's straightened out. Okay, so we can now move on to the front end, and to do that we need D9. That's the flat plate that our electronics are going to sit on, and we also need the little, where are they? D10s, 2 of them. One, 2. We need our D7. Go. And of course, we need the, let's cut from this side, the arrangement we created earlier. There we go. So let's pop that to one side, and so our D9 should sit just about there. The slot that we have in there should fit around the tab that we have sticking out of the bottom there, like so. So we can affix that there. So and then just tidy these up a little. Go. This part here, this is our D9, actually sits on the back of this arrangement that we made earlier, like so. So what we want to avoid doing is applying glue to this and then that going over the holes here. These holes are used as slots for the cowl to attach and detach, and that's how we change the battery in these rotary engine models. So what I'm going to do is just make sure I know where this is sitting, and in fact I can actually just mark with a pencil there. There. And I just know not to put glue above that line, but then I can circumvent these slots as well, so I don't gum them up. Good. And then pop that into place. Obviously the bottom of this should be flush, like so. Excellent. Right, I'm going to let that dry off, and then we'll come back and attach that to the front and get our D10s into place as well. Our little assembly here. We've got our little cutout part here that should neatly sit over the tongue part of D9, just like so. So we can just add a bit of glue and get that put into place. It just pops onto there, like so. Make sure that's all pushed in nice and firmly. And then we top it off with our D10s that run across the two little platforms that we've created with these additional parts. They literally just sit on top of them. So the thicker end of D10 goes to the front, so, and the thinner to the back. Fingers and thumbs this evening. So this on the other side. Okay. So you just need to even it up so that everything is sitting quite neatly together. So the other thing to take note of is that the edges of these D10s should just about come outside of the curvature of the fuselage, like so. So there's only a tiny little bit poking out. You can see there. It's just so that there's something the skin can form onto. So we can now let that dry. There's one more task to do, and that is to actually add the there's a little magnet that goes into the front of W1 there. I just need to find them. I did put them on here, but of course they've scarpered, so I'm going to have a quick look around and get hold of them. Well, fortunately, that was easier than I thought. The little lighters had decided to attach themselves to my external hard drive, which I hope hasn't affected the recording of this video. That would be a tragedy. So anyway, let's just pop this into place here, like so, and then I'm actually going to use some CA just to hold it in place. I mean, you can use aliphatic resin. You could even use the phone to phone. It's good enough for that. But in fact, I might end up having to do that because I don't seem to have any glue left. No, that's totally empty. So I shall use my phone to phone. Stick it back up there. That's it. Shall use my little glue freeing tool. Oh, that was a silly idea. Because of course it is magnetic. So let's try that again. So we'll pop this in from the front. So go. Now the other thing that we can do with this whilst we're here is with our sticker sheet we should have the two S3s that sit there and there. They don't have any, well, they have numbers on them, but they're not particularly sort of coloured in or anything like that. So let's just grab one of them and sit that over. This is where you could do with plastic tweezers. Sit that over the magnet. There we go. In fact, once it's over there, I can use something magnetic just to press the sticker home, and also that will attract the magnet right up to the edge of where it's supposed to be. So that's great. And then I'm just going to put a little more glue on the back there, seeing as we managed to screw that up. Go. So that'll dry off where it's sitting now. You can see from the underside there, you can see where the magnet is sitting. Let's just try and get an angle on it. There we go. So you can see it just there. It's got a little bit of glue all over it. And everything else should form up. It might need a little bit of sort of jiggling around, but everything should form up so that it's all fairly square. Obviously this at the moment is a bit of a parallelogram, like so, but once we get the skin over it, it'll really firm things up. So there we go. So that is our frame finished. Well, my apologies for the first part of this video where we were building the Sopwith PUP fuselage airframe. The camera itself that I was using was not performing as it should have done, and I've adjusted a few settings and things are a lot better now. I unfortunately won't be repeating the build for these because I don't have any more parts with me to do that. So hopefully everything was clear enough that you've been able to get to this stage. But from here on in, we should be getting a lot better in terms of the visuals. We've now got auto focus, so I can bring things right up to the camera, so you can see things in much more detail. There we go. And so everything should become a lot clearer, but hopefully this will give you a good idea of how everything's supposed to look after you've built it. Of course, if it doesn't, there is always the beauty of lighter fluid to enable you to break it down, take it apart, and give it another go. So apologies for that. But from here on in, we should be a little more high definition.